Yesterday's meeting, I had a breakdown of this pointer: pity, perfection, and perspective as mental traps. So people get lost in wanting to be right, not risking so you'll fail. So that's the perfection trap. Then people get into the victim trap, where they try to fall into this story. Somebody's in sympathy and you can't help them. The compassion fatigue. And then often we lose perspective. And then when you mention prayer is a way to get perspective. But if I want to knock you off your game as a troll or someone, emotional manipulation, they usually hit pity or perfection. So they say, you hurt me. I'm so emotionally hurt. I'm offended because you did blah, blah, blah. So that's trying to sympathy plea. And then they say, because you used the wrong word, or you used the wrong tone, or you didn't say the right word in the right speed, they'll give you a double bind. And then people, codependents and therapy people, they go into therapy and it says, this is how you're doing something wrong. So you got to memorize how you do it right, and how you do it right, and how you do it right, which reinforces perfection, which means an abuser can just poke anything that you care about and bam.
Wow.
You lose perspective.
Right. Yeah. So what would be a good outcome for you during this session that we have with the time that's left?
Well, this pointer, could it be simplified? Because this was trying to just, there's so many models of how to interact with people, blah, blah, blah. How to manage stress, how to be less discombobulated, or how to find a way to navigate evil. Could I use these pointers as a way to simplify a roadmap? That might be interesting if it's possible.
So what's your thought about that?
Well, for Peter's situation, he lost perspective of time, and what was at the end do was like unpacking. So he mentioned that my presence helped him unpack. That gave him perspective. Where maybe his issue was timing, so that's perfection. Like, I needed to fit as much as possible. The dentist appointment messed up my time schedule, and it ruined the physio session. So he was caught up in perfection, which made him lose touch with perspective. So me, just reflecting back and not rushing in to try to fix it, that'd be more pity plea. Gave him time to unpack it himself. Gave him perspective. Or we could have prayed together. And if we prayed together, we could say, let's pray together and put it in God's hands. That's another way of gaining perspective.
Wow. So is this a framework, pity, perfection, perspective, that will be applicable to your sessions, all these Thursdays, Saturday sessions?
Well, it's a recent reframing. It's not really making anything new. So perfectionism is a common term that's thrown out there. The need to control, the need for certainty, that's all perfectionism. So there's many different pointers that are pointing towards this desire or risk aversion. So that was sort of, you live in an avoidance versus an engaged standpoint. So that's perfection. Pity is usually the victim card. So that's safetyism. I talked about that earlier this year, that I'm going to try to take on safetyism and call out people who overplay the pity card. Poor pitiful me, save me, or I'm going to cry more. And then perspective is reflection, listening, awareness, prayer, context. See the big loop. Retrospectives, debriefing. So awareness practices help you gain perspective. But if I knock you off your game, then I can get you to focus on my perspective. Then you lose touch with reality.
Wow. Now I see you really alive when you go over this, pity, perfection perspective. How is that like for you? I mean, this thing is appeared to me to be so in tune with you.
Well, it's getting close to being simple. I think. It's still, perfection's a bit too big of a word in perspective, but because it's 3 Ps, that's sort of the pitch. I might be able to tweak the pointers a little better, but so many of people in my group, we have so many teachings that trigger people's perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I was saying, this pointer is great, but it's worthless, like here.
There is no sincere communication with the
It's
insincere.
simple,
There is
it's
no
true,
sincere communication with the insincere.
but it's a waste of time to memorize. Because by the time someone says, I fell for insincere communication, they wasted. They already fell for the insincere communication, so the pointer just triggers their perfectionism. How come I didn't remember what I learned? It's counterproductive. And so many of the teachings in this space and in therapy and coaching are triggering perfectionism.
Mm-hmm. Wow, deep. So what's the if you go in your mind and your experience through this pity perfection perspective, what will be for you things that you'll apply, things that will be directly useful in what you do, in these Thursday, Saturday kind of places?
Well, it's a secular framework to argue for humanity and compassion. Because perfectionism is arguing for perfection, to be just like God, to be better than human, beyond your capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then pity is to get lost in emotions, lost in the mood, so then you lose your ability to be an agent. And then if you have no perspective, you have no anchor. That was Peter's pointer. So even if I don't use this pointer, if it allows me to memorize at least 3 categories of losing touch with your humanity, losing touch with your impact, losing touch with your centeredness. It could be a reminder that doesn't trigger perfectionism. That's sort of my focus, is that therapy and self-help tends to stigmatize you. It says, this is a symptom, you need to fix it. Here's a correction, here's a prescription. Once you accept the prescription and the correction, you assume you're imperfect. You assume you need this correction because you're not good enough. So then you're falling into the perfection trap. You want to be more than human. Instead of trying to be the best human you can be, you want to be better than human, which is slippery slope.
Yeah. Isn't it that a temptation that happened, to a bunch of people? I mean, when we think of perfection, we kind of lose track of the sense of our humanity. We're not perfect.
Yes. And that's beautiful. Or that's human. Maybe selling it's beautiful is going to be hard. But that's human. And the humanities have been abandoned. How to be human. Great literature, great music is trying to teach us how to be more human and make that beautiful.
Well, what does a smile mean? I mean, because, you have this wonderful smile.
Part of my struggle is how to frame an argument for being human or being different or striving to be a better human without being perfect, guarded. And somehow I think I'm close. I might have to tweak the words to being able to have a language to present something that's matters to me, or how I navigate to the world that might build a bridge to other people. And it feels like it's almost simple enough, but I have to wait and see. I'm still testing it. But.
Lovely. Yeah, experimenting. That's beautiful.
Maybe that's part of your discombobulation.
Maybe it is. I think you could be.
Final week.
Right. Maybe I feel pity for myself, whereas I should be looking at 75 as a time to get perspective. And and I think I am trying to abandon my perfectionism.
You've already stepped forward with this, yeah?
I think I am. I think I'm thinking, I can make music with friends. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to have humanity.
Absolutely.
If we can immerse ourselves in the humanity of a Beethoven string quartet, boy, we are doing really well, even if the music is not acoustically perfect.
Yes.
And so I can abandon the pity, I can abandon the perfection, I can go for perspective in order to move into a place of being the most truly human, the most truly human 75-year-old person that I can be. I think there's a lot to that. Maybe I like your framework, yes.
Now that it's fitting, it's simple. It's too simple. That's sort of the problem.
It's too simple?
Yeah, because you're getting it. You saw the links by just talking it out.
I need the simple. Sometimes I need something simple to aim for. But when I get close, I realize I need something a little bit more or a little bit different. But at least I've had some experience of moving in a direction that is an exploration.
Into motion.
Gets me into motion. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you for the idea framework.